Heyo, welcome back to Data Dispatch. We are here with a quick update on Palantir Technologies, talking about some key support zones that we need to look for here in the near future, and also in terms of resistance for Palantir going into 2024, and some of the catalysts that will really help this stock overcome those resistance points in terms of momentum and buying pressure and a lot of emotion. But also, we're going to be talking about some of the big concerns behind Palantir right now that I think are important not to just brush your eyes over. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor, just collecting all the data and dispatching it to you. Now, let's see how Palantir really traded today in terms of the actual market. We have the general markets that finished just slightly in the green, basically a consolidation right here. Highest one is the Dow Jones, up 0.3%. Going back to Palantir, we see a little bit of a small red here in terms of down about 1.19%. In terms of support, what we're going to be looking for in the following trading sessions coming here into the next year and for the rest of this week is at that 1742. You can see there's been multiple touch points here within the last few days, and you can see you got 1, 2, you got 3. That is kind of a bouncing support zones here, like I said in the previous few trading sessions. And looking in terms of resistance, Palantir actually tested a short-term resistance point here of about that 1760. You can see that being carried throughout those previous days, as we've seen a small bit of consolidation looking here on just the 5-minute charts between the 742 and the 763. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing, especially for Palantir trying to establish more support in this trading zone. Remember, Palantir is more comfortable between trading that at that 13 and the 15. That is really what we saw between 2023. You had those quarter 3 reports and the earnings that were resulted, and you have Palantir really explode into this exponential area and setting a recent 52-week year-to-date high. So all things considered, settling here in the 17s I don't think is necessarily a bad thing for a little bit of a cool off for Palantir. And slicing right over here to the options, you see Palantir still has a good amount of call volume at that $18 strike price for expirations at the end of the week. So we have a lot of bullish confidence still going for Palantir. Now, quickly looking to the media here, let's talk about the good and the bad news. And this comes from Investor Place, highlighting the actual reason we could have a lot of eyeballs that are looking at Palantir into 2024, and why some people are predicting a little bit of a pullback here, and why that prediction may not be too crazy. Now, one bullish thing that we have seen for Palantir, they did have an add-on to that recent contract. Remember, we had a lot of bears in the media saying that this is a bad thing, but at the end of the day, they had an extension of their contract. So I see that as a bullish variable in terms of extending not just their commercial revenue, which they have been growing, but continuing to establish those governmental relationships. And talking about that, what you see with Palantir is having possible trouble expanding into the European sector. And talking about that and why what we've seen this is that the CEO, Alex Karp, has basically admitted that the company is having trouble breaking into the Europe's public sector defense market, saying that they're making a terrible investment in tech, saying that he screamed at people in Europe, but it's not going to change. And some investors might see this as a potential negative impact for Palantir, as they are working to improve on diversifying their private sector in terms of commercial revenue via their AIP bootcamp. Now, talking about that and why this remains a challenge for Palantir is because with that AIP bootcamp, they are trying to test possible clients to get them on board with their AI data analytics software. They have Apollo, Foundry, Gotham, many different types of softwares that can help improve the efficiency and the productivity and can help with cost savings for possible clients. Now, talking about that, I don't think that is a number one bad thing for Palantir, because one thing that is good, especially going here, is talking about its next earnings report. And that's a lot of eyeballs are on that in terms of the next earnings per share projections right now are at 8 cents. And this would signify a 100% increase compared to the same quarter of the previous year. If we quickly title over here to Seeking Alpha, we can see that the actual next earnings report isn't due till February 13th. But what we have seen, and a key thing that I do like seeing, is this earnings per share revisions. And this is basically what are analysts continuing to either raise or lower the bar for what they predict Palantir is going to bring in number one earnings per share and revenue. We've seen 9 bullish revisions in the last 90 days. And this is great for Palantir. Talking about here with that normalized estimate of about 8 cents, one thing that you see is the Zacks estimate is continuing to increase right here. They're demonstrating changes of over 316%. And this is why Palantir, the Zacks rank, really utilizes these earning per share revisions as a big proponent to their actual ranking of their stocks, either 1, a strong buy, or 5, a strong sell. Palantir right now, it is a strong buy to the Zacks rank, and that is even considering the valuation of Palantir being traded at a forward price to earnings ratio of 71.43, which is much higher than the industrial standard of 26.47, nearly over 3 times. So where Palantir sits right now is at a really interesting point. You have concerns, of course, from the governmental side in terms of investment in Europe. However, I think their expansion into America is still going to be a key catalyst. And where I sit at the end of the day, and where I think Data Dispatch sits at the end of the day in terms of prediction into 24, is that yes, at any time this is a speculative stock. You also have to take into effect that we have had the general market explode in November. We've seen that increase in December. And with those Fed's rates that are continuing to decrease, not just throughout next year in 2025, we're going to see a lot of confidence coming into the market. With these AI bubble that we are in, this will continue to expand. We're going to see these high valuations behind Palantir. So any bad news, we could see a quick sell-off or correction in Palantir. That can happen at any time, and that is basically unpredictable on when that can happen. But I think in terms of a long-term growth perspective, that's where Data Dispatch remains bullish on Palantir going into the next year and really starting to establish and diversify into more of that commercial and private revenue sector, which we talked about in various videos. We've seen success with this, and the reason we've seen success is because they have smashed the last 4 quarters with that fourth quarter of GAAP profitability, and you have the S&P 500 inclusion. Is that going to happen next year? It very likely could. There's a lot of things up in the air, so make sure you do your own research. We're remaining bullish in terms of a long-term growth perspective, but watch out for those short-term corrections because they could happen at any time. We'll be keeping an eye on Palantir for the following few days here, and then we'll go into next year, see what PLTR gives us. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.